I'm Aaron.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm John. Where are my heathen heads at?
Heyo.
On this episode of Battlecriesandchampagne, Heathen, remixes, and bonus tracks.
Alright, this is the home stretch.
Yeah, this is the big season finale, everybody. Andrew, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm well. I had an interesting little moment today at work. This will only probably resonate with Canadian listeners and maybe not even all Canadians, but there's a chain of coffee shops here called Robin's Donuts. And you know what? I went to Robin's today for the first time in probably 25 years. This is like a chain that I would say has been in decline for some time, but I was craving a donut and the lineup at Tim Hortons was way too long, so I went to Robin's and damn, it was a good donut.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised by that, and I hope they're able to turn things around. And Robin's, if you're looking for advertising, we'd be happy to help you out.
Yeah.
On season 2.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Robin's Donuts, I remember fondly as a kid, and they just kind of lost the franchise fight to Tim Hortons. Yeah, I'm glad to hear they're still making good donuts, though.
I have a tragic memory of Robin's Donuts, and actually this involves John.
Oh, no, I remember this now. Oh, man. That was really in their decline.
Yeah, this was about probably 10 years ago now. We were living together at the time, and I think we just decided to go to Robin's for, I don't know, breakfast or a snack or whatever, early one morning. And unfortunately, yeah, this shows the decline aspect. There was only one employee working, and I asked for a tea, and the employee was, busy with, because obviously John ordered something. I definitely got a donut, and anyway, it was a complicated order, I guess, for one person. And yeah, the employee unfortunately ended up pouring the hot water on her hand, and and I just felt so bad, and then it was just a really awkward.
Oh, it was a terrible experience for everyone involved. No, that was the last time I think I went to Robin's as well.
Well, they're good. I guess that dries up our chances of advertising with us. Probably.
That sponsorship's gone down the drain. So how you doing, John?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Yeah, upcoming, I'm going to the Calgary Expo, which is a Comic-Con of sorts. It'll be my second time going to an event like that, so I'm pretty excited to go see that. Lots of cool stuff going on there.
You dressing up?
No, I'm not the dress up kind. I put on my nerdiest attire, which surprisingly isn't even that nerdy.
What is your nerdiest attire? I'd like to know.
Oh, probably some electronic music attire that nobody understands the reference to. I have a few little anime attire things, but it's funny, some opportunity like this comes around and I just feel completely underdressed compared to all the other nerds who are there. But yeah, that being said, we're covering the last little bit of Heathen in this episode.
That's right. So yeah, as I said, season finale, and we've saved potentially the best for last. We'll see. Anyway, and we're also, once we've talked about some of these Heathen tracks, we're also going to kind of do a little bit of a summary of season 1 and talk about some of the tracks and albums that impacted us the most. And we would love to hear from you guys what you have thought about the albums, or what you think about the albums that we've discussed this season. So there'll be an opportunity to do that a little bit later in the show. But for now, we're going to talk about the SACD, or Super Audio CD mixes of Heathen, and to get us fully understanding what these mixes are about and the format of the SACD, we're going to pass it off to Andrew.
Thanks, Aaron. So we're going to talk a little bit, we're going to nerd out here about SACD, which is also known as Super Audio CD. They're very hard to come by these days, but had a little bit of a moment in the audiophile community in the kind of very, very early 2000s. Basically, just to start by explaining what a CD is. It's a round plastic disc that you record music on.
For those who haven't seen a CD before, which there are some.
And basically, the way they work is there's obviously a polycarbonate kind of disc, and then you have very, very small little they're called pits and lands So flat spots and little depressions in the disc, and then you read that with a laser, and it basically just encodes like data, right? Zeros and ones, and that's your music. And typically with a normal CD, there's some amount of compression going on because you can only record so much data on there, and you want to fit a whole album on there. So you have to kind of shrink down that file, and you lose a bit of resolution in your sound, right? So SACD was developed by Sony and Philips in the late 90s, and basically it allows that engraving of data on the disc to be done at a much higher definition, so you can record a lot more data on your disc.
The thing that blew my mind about SACD is that, and there's a bit of nuance here, but CDs originally, they sample 4,410 times a second, which sounds like a lot. And apparently it's at a deeper amount of data compared to an SACD. But SACDs sample 2.8 million times per second. Yeah, pretty incredible technology that, like many media formats, came and went without a lot of fanfare, unfortunately.
And you need a special player for it, so it was never quite broke into the mainstream. Unfortunately for Sony and Philips, this is kind of the time when people are moving towards Napster, and they're kind of moving towards like really low quality MP3s that you download off the internet, right? So
which just goes to show the general public really just cares about quantity, not quality.
Yeah, so it kind of came out at the wrong time. And of course there was another format called DVD audio, which basically does the same thing using a DVD to record sound. So there was a format war between formats that both ended up kind of losing. But the fun thing with SACD in theory is you don't need to compress your audio to fit it on there. So you can get a much more high definition sound. Or you can use like a lossless form of compression that still requires more room than what you would get on a standard CD. There's some debate about whether or not the difference is something that the layperson would notice. Like if you're not a musician or a recording engineer, would you really notice the difference between SACD and normal CD? And I don't have an SACD setup, so I'll not weigh in on that. But the other fun thing you can do, because you can fit a lot more data on there, is you can put surround sound, right? You can get more channels on that disc.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so you can put, well, at the time I don't think they had 7.1 yet, but you can put a 5.1 surround sound mix on that disc, which you can't do on a normal CD. So that creates an opportunity for like engineers and musicians to like slightly rework some of their stuff to work better in that surround format, which is precisely what Bowie and Visconti,
yeah.
Thank you, did. And I think this was actually mostly Visconti. And this came out in December 2002 on SACD. And there's actually some small differences with some of the tracks that even if you don't have an SACD player, you will be able to pick up on. So I think we'll talk briefly about those.
Yeah, I think, Aaron, you pointed out that they down-mixed them to be stereo, which is typically what a lot of streaming services use nowadays. So you could still pick out the differences in how it was mixed.
And just to be extremely clear, as Andrew said, this format just allows you to hear the same music in a better resolution. But with Heathen, they specifically remixed it for this format. So what we're talking about is a remix and not just the audio. Yeah, this is not just a debate about audio quality, because as Andrew admitted, and I would be first to admit this myself as well, I'm not sure if I have the ears for that kind of nuance. So we're just talking about the remixes. And as John pointed out in the I Can't Give Everything Away box set, some of these remixes were included in a downmix stereo form, and that's principally what we're going to be reviewing here.
So when the Robin's Donuts money comes through, we'll go out and buy like an SACD setup so we can actually tell you whether high definition, uncompressed sound is better. But for now, we're going to be restricted to talking about just the remixes that they did. For the most part, what we're getting here, I think, are slightly longer outros. I guess they're trying to build the kind of atmospheric effect that you get with the surround sound system, right?
Yeah, that's probably what they were going for. You're right. I was kind of wondering about why they extended some of these songs, that they're simply a different mix. By the way, I'm talking about like it's 10 seconds for the SACD version of Slip Away compared to like the regular version. So a very subtle amount. It's not a huge change. You probably wouldn't notice it unless you were picking through things kind of like we do on this show. But yeah, I mean, throughout the listening to these tracks, I felt like in general, the tracks came through like each element of them was less blended and came through a bit cleaner, which I don't necessarily think is a good thing. Like, I like when instruments blend and kind of harmonize sometimes. So, I'd take or leave that aspect. For example, in like Slip Away, piano and strings pop more, I found. Slow burn guitar is very prominent, especially in my left ear. And things like that were kind of coming across to me. How'd you guys find it?
The one kind of funny thing is with the SACD version of Slow Burn, it's 25 seconds longer, so it's a fair bit longer. But actually, fade out is actually much more abrupt.
Yes.
Like there's like there's more going on at the end, and then it ends actually quite abruptly, which is like not what I would have expected necessarily if you're making it longer. And then on Safe, there's a whole extra minute. That's the one where you're getting the biggest difference. And there's a guitar solo in there that doesn't otherwise appear.
Overall, yeah, the differences are pretty minimal. In the Slip Away version, there's a snare part, like that's in the fade out of the song that isn't in the album version. So yeah, there's just an extra instrument there, which is kind of interesting. But for the most part, you guys are right. There is a little bit, I would say, a little more clarity between instruments. It's mostly just kind of playing around with the fade outs, and like particularly on 515, the Angels Have Gone. They're really just extending that fade out, which I don't think is really necessary. There's nothing really interesting being added there. I guess probably the reason why they included those specific tracks on the I Can't Give Everything Away box set is just because there is a different time length for those songs. But actually, I listened to down mixes created by YouTubers. So I don't know how accurate these are. Like, I don't know what I've never down mixed anything myself, so I don't know what the technology is. Like, I don't know if when you down mix something, if you are choosing the levels of things, or if that's just like, you're just flattening the thing. Anyway, so I don't know if an official stereo mix was made, if it would sound the same as these YouTube down mixes, but the two down mixes I found the most interesting where I took a trip on a Gemini spaceship, because I feel like maybe that clarity between instruments really brings out the kind of percussive interplay with the bass, and it really brings up the funky nature of the song, which is really cool.
Took a trip on a Gemini spacecraft, and it's all about you.
And Everyone Says Hi has some differences in mix between how the strings and guitar blend together.
Everyone says hi.
And then also, the Heathen, the Rays SACD mix, there's like an extra synth in the left channel around the 30-second mark. I guess what it comes down to is that these mixes aren't that drastically different, but if I was choosing 6 mixes to include on this box set, I would maybe play around with some of the more dramatically different ones. But
yeah, I gotta say, in general, like, for my general listening pleasure, the original mixes of Heathen, because in my like cheap earbuds or whatever, to me, I don't need the more divided, more crisp sounds. It's not gonna really do very much. In fact, it might take a little bit away from just the general passive listening pleasure. So yeah, I don't know. It was interesting listening to these. Didn't really blow my mind in any way.
Okay, well, let's blow our minds. Let's talk about some of these bonus tracks here.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about is the one that Andrew mentioned just a few minutes ago, Safe.
The past, it almost shimmers now. All we needed, all we wished for. But here I am, and safe am I, trusting in the endless sky. Safe in the sky.
So this song originally was written for the Rugrats movie in 1998, of all things.
Are you serious? What?
Yeah. Anyway, for some reason, Bowie agreed to record a new song and compose and record a new song for the project. He demoed this song in August of 1998 with Reeves Gabrels, his main guitarist in the 90s, on guitar, and then Jason Cooper on drums. Now, this demo seems to have been basically created in the studio with Bowie using the Verbicizer to create his lyrics, and the Verbicizer was a software that he had co-developed in the 90s that where basically he was able to just feed text into the program and it would spit it out, the words out in random order, which then he would use to inspire his lyric approach. He didn't use it to write lyrics, but he would use just the random order of the words to kind of build meaning and then riff off of that.
Wow. Yeah, between this and the Super Audio CD, it just continually blows my mind how much throughout his career Bowie pushed the boundaries of music making technology and was always willing to toy around with like experimental stuff. That's super cool.
Absolutely. As I said, this demo was recorded in August 98. That's later that same month they recorded the official soundtrack version. This had a fuller band on it, including Gabrels again on guitar, John Conte on bass, Clem Burke on drums, and Heathen's pianist Jordan Rudess on keyboards. Once they recorded this, they realized that the song needed a strong string arrangement, which led Bowie to reach out to Tony Visconti. At this point, they had been estranged for the better part of 15 years. So Heathen is the album that brings Visconti and Bowie back together, but Safe is the song that initially repaired that relationship. So
hey, I got this really good opportunity with the Rugrats movie. You want to get back together for this?
Unfortunately, when they are making the final cut of the Rugrats, the scene that this song was supposed to be in gets cut out, so they cannot use the song. So it just sits on the shelves. And Bowie decides to re-record it during the Heathen sessions. The only part they keep from that Rugrats version is the strings. Everything else is re-recorded, and Bowie rewrites the lyrics. So I would love to hear both the demo and the Rugrats version, just to hear any differences and what the lyrics maybe were, if they were Rugrats related or
Yeah, I was trying to apply these to like the theme of the Rugrats movie, the lyrics, and I was kind of doing it but kind of struggling. So I'm not surprised to hear it was different, I guess.
Anyway, so that's the story behind Safe. What do you guys think about it?
I really like this track. A couple episodes ago, Aaron, you teased that I would have an alternative track listing for Heathen.
Oh, yes.
And I don't, except that I took a trip on Gemini Spaceship off, and I would have put Safe on. I know you could maybe argue like it's not a perfect fit on the album, and that's fair enough, but neither is I Took the Trip, I think. And I just think this is a better song. It almost has to me, a bit of like a Bond movie vibe to it. Like it's got that kind of sultriness, the drama, the strings really bring that out. If you maybe turned even the strings up a little bit and given it some more spaces without vocals for whatever on-scene action is going on, like it actually could have worked in the Bond movie. It's really hard for me to imagine this in a Rugrats movie, but hey, maybe we need to hear that original version, right?
We do.
Oh my gosh, we need to find that. I really appreciated the instrumentation in this, like the guitar and strings were really nice. The stylophone, although I would say a good addition, goes on way too long throughout the song, is consistently in there, and to me it was a little grating. I love me a good stylophone, a little bit too much in this song. It contrasts to the themes and kind of vibe of Afraid, I would say. of the ones we're going to discuss, the bonus tracks, this would probably be the one I would have put on the album. And yeah, perhaps replacing I Took a Trip in a Gemini Spacecraft would be what I'd do with it as well.
Okay, interesting. I agree with you that the instrumentation on this song is great, and it does have a fun feel to it. But what Andrew said about A Better Future when we talked about that a few episodes ago is what I would say here. I feel like the chorus is repeated a few too many times. It could have been shortened. And yeah, the SACD mix, which as Andrew pointed out adds a minute to it, I think also maybe amplifies that feeling that this song could be a little shorter. But do you have a preference between the SACD mix and...
I didn't find the SACD version added that much. Like, this is already a pretty long
Yeah, it's around
track.
the 5 minute mark, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it needed to be made any longer. Like, it didn't feel like the original had been... You know, it's not like it was edited into a 3-minute version for radio and they needed to let it breathe a bit more, right? So yeah, I'm not really sure what the idea behind that whole extra minute was. Maybe it's mind-blowing in surround sound. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. We have not listened to it in surround sound. So okay, the next bonus track we're going to talk about is Wood Jackson.
And how he cried. The more they bleed and tremble when they're running after life. Heaven knows he's really torn now.
Wood Jackson was a Japanese bonus track. For Bowie, at least, basically as soon as his albums were starting to be released on CD simultaneously as vinyl, there was always an additional track on the Japanese CD. So that goes all the way back to Never Let Me Down. And sometimes it was just like a remix of a track. But in the case of Wood Jackson, obviously it's a completely new song that, you know, it's not just a remix of a song. Now, most authors think that this song is about this cult artist named Daniel Johnston, who hails from West Virginia. Throughout his life, he dealt with a lot of mental health issues, and he loved comic books. So basically, the way he would get comic books is he would record little cassette demos, usually with a toy organ, and then he would trade them at the comic shop for comics. And I guess the comic shop owner, I don't know, made copies of these cassettes and then started distributing them. Anyway, somehow Johnston got this kind of cult renown of like these little compositions that were idiosyncratic and kind of, you know, innocent and all these things. So that's what most authors think the song's about. Nicholas Pegg suggests that, you know, Wood Jackson is also the name of a science fiction author from the 1930s, and, you know, Bowie definitely could have stumbled upon those types of books, so maybe it comes from that as well. But
Sure.
I feel like definitely narratively, the story of Daniel Johnston kind of fits more with the story of that's recounted in the song.
Yeah, I had looked up Wood Jackson. I didn't know who he was before this, but yeah, and I couldn't say that I saw like a particular... Well, I haven't read all his books or any of his books, but there was nothing obvious that would like make me think, oh, this song's about this particular author, right? So the story about Daniel Johnston maybe makes more sense to me, but I don't know. It could be you know, elements of multiple influences at work there too.
Yeah.
He sounds very English in this track.
Yeah, he's got the Cockney thing going on.
And I don't know if he's like doing a character. Like I was wondering, maybe is that like I don't know what accent Wood Jackson would have spoke with or whatever. But it wasn't clear, like because he doesn't sound like that on the other Heathen tracks, right? So I don't know. Maybe that's a clue.
A very, very sad kind of song. I was wondering about the content of the lyrics, and I didn't go as far as researching it, but there's some interesting theories you guys have presented about it. But yeah, it sounds like an aspiring music artist of sorts, or, you know, someone who would sell tapes out of the back of their car and stuff like that. So it makes sense what you were saying about him trading tapes for comics. And then there's the second half of the song that is very violent in nature, with like stealing souls on his blade and like the mob bleed and tremble when they're running after life. Like, goodness gracious. It kind of speaks to, sure, mental health issues and perhaps a psychotic break of sorts that leads to violence was what went through my mind. It's a strange song. I just wasn't sure where it fit in the narrative of Heathen and very sad. So, like I mentioned with Safe, I don't know if I'd put this one on the album compared to the other songs that are on it, or Safe.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it fits on Heathen. I think even just like the story, I feel like this is like a very kind of innocent character that's being portrayed here, and yeah, I feel like Heathen is full of non-innocent situations, you know. So
yeah, cynicism or kind of pessimism, I guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, the next song would be my candidate for adding to Heathen. When the Boys Come Marching Home. This was just a bonus track on the 2 CD edition of Heathen. And like Wood Jackson and Safe also got a SACD mix. Neither of Wood Jackson and When the Boys Come Marching Home have a noticeably different SACD mix, but the only kind of comment that seems to come back about this song in writings about it is just that there was probably too many down-tempo songs on Heathen already, so that's why Bowie let this one go. But I feel that was a shame. First of all, it has the word heathen in the song, which would make it the only song on Heathen to include that word in it. And I just feel like it is so beautiful. You know, you have Carlos Alomar on guitar here, on the rhythm guitar.
Yeah, it was good to have Carlos Alomar back, right?
And I feel like his part is actually quite noticeable here. Like on Everyone Says Hi, the only other track on this album he plays on, his guitar parts aren't that noticeable, because I think on that song he's only playing the acoustic guitar. And when you think of Everyone Says Hi, you don't really think of the acoustic guitar.
Right? It's strings or whatever. But
this one, you can actually really hear what he's doing.
Here's to those who cluster, walking through the wars, the girls who never closed till dawn. They rag upon the feeble, and they swarm around the stronger, but their eyes are fixed on the edge of town. When the boys come marching home.
Yeah, I feel like the lyrics are like very impressionistic, and then Bowie's doing like that kind of canon vocal stuff towards the end of the song, which is, you know, not a common thing in Bowie songs. So yeah, this song has really grown on me as we've been preparing for this episode. I really love it.
Oh, I could see that. Yeah, I found it was very fitting to the theme of the album. Like you mentioned, it's the only one that mentions heathen at all as a thing or theme. The strings and chanting backing vocals, like I really loved, and a common theme throughout the album, of course. A little light on the synths in this one, which isn't a bad thing. It's just an observation I kind of came across. And then just interesting pop culture references some of the rest of the album has, like shouting out Brave New World. We're talking about like the maybe the crossroads between the past and future with this album, and so that seemed like a fitting reference. I could see why maybe they would have cut it because there was already enough of that on the album, but you know, I could see it being seen as a loss. In that it is a beautiful track.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I have to say it didn't hit me as much as it did either of you, but I'm willing to go back and give it another listen. I didn't have any really complaints or anything to articulate. It just didn't blow me away. I kind of went like, yeah, it's another down-tempo song. I could go on the album or not, but I'm gonna listen to it again now with maybe a little more open mind, because I think you've done a good job of advocating for it.
Well, thank you, and that's what we can do for for Robin's Donuts if you gave us a chance.
That's right. And I have to say, this is one of the fun things about this past season is like it has actually, as I've been preparing for every episode, like it has changed my perspective on some songs, right? So that's kind of, I hope it has for you too, dear listener.
Yes, and that is an excellent transition to our final segment of this season, where we're just going to talk about some of the big moments for us of season 1. So
tough questions.
The first thing that I've asked John and Andrew to do is to rank the albums that we've talked about this season. So we're not obviously ready to rank all the Bowie albums yet. We're just talking about the 5 albums that we've looked at this season. I did include Peter and the Wolf. I assume that would probably be at the bottom. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll wait and see.
How dare you make us choose? I actually did agonize over this because, you know, I think in if I were to be fair, like I could swap some of these albums places pretty easily, but what I settled on, for me, Labyrinth would be the one I guess I was less enthusiastic about going back to, just because of how strange some of the tracks were. Obviously, there's like, it's a movie soundtrack, so a lot of that is going to be listenable in the context of the movie, and then a lot of it is just of no interest outside of it. So, you know, for that reason, I put it at the bottom. Peter and the Wolf being a more cohesive piece for just audio listeners, to me was a really cool piece, but again, it's not really a music album, and it's not the kind of audio I go back and listen to very often, so I'll probably put that second from the bottom. Above that, I suppose fourth in my list would be Young Americans. I really like Young Americans. It's great, but it didn't really hit me as hard as the other albums. So I'd say Let's Dance probably comes in third above that for me.
I felt like you were so against the polish of Let's Dance. I thought you would have gone for the kind of rougher...
I mean, I guess, but I was just trying to go off my gut feeling based on like the memories I have of each one. So I'm not going too deep into the critique of each of these. But yeah, Let's Dance, I just genuinely enjoy more of the tracks from that album, I'd say, on a day-to-day basis. I'm more likely to go back to that one. Second, though, really surprised me, and I really liked it. And I agonized not to put it first, but Heathen, I really enjoyed. It surprised me a lot. I really enjoyed it. I will be going back to listen to it for sure. And yeah, I thought it was just a phenomenal album that I struggled not to put first, but I gotta put Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars first, because for me, that'll always hold such a special place in my heart, not just as a Bowie album, but as an altogether rock album, especially from that era. It's one of the all-time greats, and you know, based on my history of loving that album and just its importance in the rock scene, I gotta put that first for this season. Not easy choices. So judge me all you like.
It's not easy. You didn't tell us where you ranked Atlantis SquarePants.
Or Little Drummer Boy. No. Well, Little Drummer Boy at the bottom. Atlantis SquarePants right at the top.
Okay. Yeah, well, given that he didn't actually sing in Atlantis SquarePants, that's probably my bottom ranked quote unquote album or topic for an episode, shall we say. Yeah, same with Peter and the Wolf for the same reason. I mean, you know, I think I defended his narration in that episode. I didn't think it was bad, but look, I mean, if you're gonna be listening to either that or Heathen for the rest of your life, I mean, come on, there's no contest. Peace on Earth, Little Drummer Boy, well, it's fun, but it's syrupy, it's hokey, and I don't know. There you go. Now we get into something a little more tricky. I struggled between Labyrinth and Young Americans, to be honest, because I didn't have the best memories of Labyrinth going into this. I had watched it a long time ago and didn't really appreciate it, but I actually really liked the music in that movie. Underground has been playing in my head a lot. It's just such a, down in the underground, do. It's so catchy, right? I've been thinking way too much about the Fireys, and based on the way you phrased the question, which is ranking the albums, I guess I'll put Labyrinth and then Young Americans above that, because Young Americans is an actual album. But I do think the songs on there are underrated. Top 3. Okay, Let's Dance is my number 3. Couldn't rank it any higher when you're competing against Heathen and Ziggy, but I really like this album. I know a lot of the fans think that it's, he's sold out, it's too poppy, it's too produced, whatever. I defended Let's Dance on the main episode, and I'll defend it again here. I really liked it. There's some great songs, some catchy songs. Not every album needs to be, a work of poetry that's really cryptic and hard to get into. Sometimes you can just do a fun pop dance album, and that's totally fine. Okay, top 2. This was really tough. But I think number 2 is going to be Heathen. Obviously an exceptional album, as is Ziggy. I know Aaron might disagree with this, but by the time David Bowie produces Heathen, like, he's a mature artist. Ziggy comes much earlier in his career, which I think needs to be taken into account. That's the album that makes him a superstar, and it's just a glorious album. And the story and the character and the just sort of energy and drive that it has are just fantastic. I think this is like one of my favorite albums of all time. Heathen probably is more artistic. You know, Heathen, he's for sure, it's also like relaunching his career. But the reason why the career needed to be relaunched is because he fell off from where he was when he made The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and Spiders from Mars. So that is still my favorite album of this season, although it was close.
Okay.
Well, you and I agreed on the top 4. I want to see where Aaron sits with all this.
Yeah, on the story, I'm going to disrupt a few things here.
Uh-oh.
First of all, yeah, I didn't rank Peter and the Wolf, Atlantis SquarePants, or Little Drummer Boy. But if I had to on the spot, yeah, Atlantis SquarePants would be at the bottom, and then Peter and the Wolf, and then Little Drummer Boy, because anyway, it's just one song. My number 5 would be Let's Dance. Stop me if you heard this before. It's too poppy, selling out, and then above that I would put Labyrinth. Okay, so in fairness, if I actually had to listen to the full Labyrinth soundtrack, including like the Trevor Jones score pieces, I would put it underneath Let's Dance. But if I'm just talking about the Bowie stuff on it, I feel like the songs on on Labyrinth are just more interesting. Let's Dance obviously has some very, very strong songs on it, but it also has some more kind of forgettable stuff. Whereas I feel like all the stuff on Labyrinth I can enjoy. Then I would put Young Americans. It would be in third place. So yeah, I do prefer Young Americans to Let's Dance, unlike you fellows. It's true that not every album has to be a work of cryptic poetry, but sometimes it can be, and it can also be a dance album at the same time. So how about that? Number 2, I would put Ziggy Stardust, and number 1 spot goes to Heathen. I just feel that Heathen has a lot more emotional weight to it. Ziggy is fun. I have no other than it ain't easy. I have no complaints about the album. But Heathen, I just feel like tells a richer and fuller story. I feel like the quasi narrative, the alien rock god in Ziggy is less relatable to me than just someone who's really struggling with the meaning of life. I feel
anxious about the millennium.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's good reasoning. I totally get that, and I agree with that. That's part of why I struggled not to rank it first.
I can't say I disagree with that either. I just think Ziggy's more fun.
Yeah, and that's fair. Yeah, if you want the fun, go with Andrew's list. If you want the cryptic not fun, go with my list. Now, for an easier question, the favorite track that we've covered.
Is it an easier question? I don't know. I agonized over this as well.
Yeah, the choices go from only 8 different options to now having however many, probably like 75 different options to choose from.
No, way easier. For me, Modern Love. Slaps every time. And it's off Let's Dance. I know, we didn't want to give it too much love here, but I just find myself thinking of that song pretty often. It's one that comes on the radio, and I think like anybody could really get into it. Out of like any of the songs that we heard this season, this is like one that's so palatable by so many people, and you just want to groove to it.
That's a good choice. I'm gonna go with Starman. That chorus is so powerful. It's just really hard not to scream it out, no matter where you are when you hear that song. It's infectious, it's energetic. Is it kind of a basic choice? Yes. But sorry, that's just how I am. So there you go.
That's absolutely fair. Aaron, how'd you go?
Okay, this was the hardest question for me, but I think what I'm going to say in the moment is I'm going to go with Young Americans.
Oh, okay.
I think that it's just got the mix of things I need in a Bowie song. It's got great percussive element to it. It's got interesting lyrics. It's got a great vocal, great backing vocalist, and to me, I think it's a fun enough song that most people could enjoy in the background. And if you want to dig a little deeper, there's something to be dug into. So, okay, let's talk about our favorite deep cut of the season. So this would be not a greatest hits kind of song, but a song that, you know, maybe it's an album track or even a song that we've, like a bonus track, like the ones we've talked about this episode.
This was tough as well because I discovered a lot of new stuff through the process of making this season. I'm going with the Arnold Corns version of Moon Age Daydream.
No, you're not going with that.
I'm not.
There's no way.
But I had to throw that out there. No, my actual choice is Bowie's cover of Amsterdam, because this is just, it's very, very basic. Like, it basically just shows a guy and a guitar. You can make a great song, but it kind of has a lot of what I look for in many of Bowie's best albums, which is kind of this tension, this cynicism, this like building towards an apocalyptic outpouring of energy. And he sounds so passionate. And in particular, the BBC version of this is, I think, the best recording, or the one that shows off these characteristics best. He just sounds so passionate, so raw, emotional, shows off what he can do without like a band and a bunch of synth. I know he didn't write the song, but that's why it's deep cut, because maybe some of our listeners aren't aware of this cover, but or you probably are now if you've been listening since the beginning of the season. But go back and give this a listen again; it's worth it.
For me, I feel like the best deep cut of the season, and it's arguable whether or not this is a deep cut, was Underground.
He's gonna go with Let's Dance. Oh.
No, I go with Underground. No, I'm going with Modern Love again. No, it was Underground, because I feel like there's such little awareness of the Labyrinth album, and that, you know, this was like a standout track and like a super good, like, fun song. And so, you know, I found it to be something that you could have seen on like a more popular general music album that Bowie put out, but for me it like really sticks in my mind as like a perhaps unknown track that I really like off this season.
I'd also go with something from the Labyrinth album. I would go with Chilly Down. I just feel like that is just such a catchy freaking song.
Really?
And easy to forget about, because, you know, it's not a song that's actually sung by Bowie on the album. But it's always stuck in my head, and that just the instrumentation is just great.
It is. It's been stuck in my head for weeks.
Yeah,
probably ever since we filmed that or recorded that episode.
Okay, we're gonna bring the mood down a little bit. We're gonna talk about the worst song we've listened to so far.
Maybe there's a bit of recency bias going on with this. I tried to stick to just the general tracks and not like the remixes and stuff. I took a trip on a Gemini spacecraft. I know.
Come
It just really doesn't do it for me. There's like annoying bits to that song that I will remember distinctly because I found them annoying. That is a song I can drop and leave quite happily. Aaron is shaking his head right now. He's disappointed.
That's a good choice. That was one that was on my list, but I'll pick something else so as not to repeat it. I'm gonna go with Almost Grown. I don't like 1950s rock and roll, to be honest.
All right, wow.
Good golly, Miss Molly. I can't believe it.
I mean, it sounds, there's a few tracks, of course, like I'm not gonna condemn the whole decade, but it's not, I just don't find there's the variety, depth to it that you start to see in the 60s, and I just didn't find Bowie's cover of it very interesting. The vocals on this are honestly a little bit annoying, which I don't normally, it feels weird saying that about David Bowie, but it's whiny sounding.
Yeah, that's a very, very good contender, actually. I didn't make my short list, but it probably should have. No surprise, I'm going to go with It Ain't Easy.
I thought so. You just have so much hate for that song.
Give us a reminder. It was a while ago that we talked about that.
Well, okay, so for one, it ruins the flow of the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars.
Fair.
Two, that harpsichord is really irritating. I think that what Andrew is describing with the vocals on Almost Grown, I think Bowie has the same kind of whiny, nasally vocal style on It Ain't Easy. I mean, really, I think it's placement in Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars that really irks me the most. But even if I just look at it as an individual track, it's not that enjoyable. Okay, now let's bring the mood back up, and then we'll bring it back down again. To bring it up, we have done extensive reviews of remixes and alternate versions, and thank you to the listeners who have stuck with us on that. Like, we sometimes if we're feeling courageous enough, we'll have a look at how we're doing viewership wise, and we've been very touched to know that a lot of you have stuck with us for those episodes. We were a little worried that we'd see a massive cratering of of listenership for those, because I don't know how many people actually care about the remixes and alternate versions, but it seems like there are people who do. So thank you so much for listening to us talk about those. And since we have awarded them considerable time, we feel it's only fair right now to mention some of our favorite remix or alternate version. So
might not surprise you given that I rated the album more highly than you did, but the Nile Rodgers string version of Let's Dance is really good. We talked about this obviously a few episodes ago, but the addition of the strings just adds a kind of sense of drama, kind of this neurotic energy to it. It's maybe a little bit less poppy, though it's still undoubtedly a pop song, but it's just a very, very good version. Of all the different versions of Let's Dance, this one might even be the best one. I think it's growing on me, and in some ways I like it even more than the original. And what about you, Joe?
Yeah, I have to agree. That is actually mine as well, the best alternate version. It did come down pretty close. That was actually the question I agonized over the most, I think, because we listen to so many cool, alternate versions and remixes. So actually the runners-up were the Let's Dance Club Bali mix, because that really pleasantly surprised me. I thought it was really fun. And then the Fame 90 Queen Latifah mix, which also pleasantly surprised me out of left field, both of those. But I'm a sucker for strings. I really like the Nile Rodgers strings version, so that has to be my best alternate version and remix of the season.
I also had the string version of Let's Dance in my finals.
Oh.
Yeah, this one also is a tough one. So I'm gonna just name a few. I think if I had to choose one, I would say the demo of Star, just because it's quite fun. But if I had to pick the alternate version that most improved the original version, I would say the 2020 mix of Holy Holy, because that song sounded horrible in its original mix, but the 2020 mix actually brings out so many elements from that muddy mix. It's just night and day. If you have not heard that mix of Holy Holy, but you have heard the original 1971 version of Holy Holy, definitely listen to that mix, the 2020 mix, because your mind will probably be changed about the quality of that song. Now, finally, what is the trashiest poo-poo remix we have heard in this season?
I am so confident in mine that I feel like you guys went with the same one. Should we say it all at once?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh no. Okay. I went with the Fame 90 Absolutely Nothing Premeditated mix.
That was my choices for potentially the best one.
Oh, that would have been...
What? Are you serious?
Okay, fight.
Oh no.
Fight.
That one's just a cacophony of many different sounds that didn't meld. It wasn't premeditated, but it didn't fit my criteria of a good song. So, unfortunately, that I didn't like it.
Well, I would argue that the underground dub mix is a cacophony of one sound for, about 5 minutes, if I remember correctly. So,
I mean, there's a few different drums on there, but honestly, they just took the name on a complete mess of shit that's completely unrelated to the original track. I don't think you would know that was supposed to be underground. And it's not dub either. This is just... Yeah, cacophony is the right word. I cannot describe enough how bad it is. and as I was just saying earlier, it's a great song too, right? So, yeah. Disappointing.
That's fair. There were so many to consider. Maybe I should have brought that more into the fold, but...
No, I mean, if you've forgotten about it, then kudos to you, man. You're doing better than us.
I mean, yeah, I can't even bring it to mind, which is... I think a good thing considering what you guys are saying about it.
Well, on that horrible note, that's how we're ending season 1. Please, as I said earlier in this episode, let us know, how would you rank the albums that we've discussed this season? What would your favorite track be? What would your least favorite track be? We would love to know those things. You can do that by leaving us a comment on YouTube. You can send us an email, battlecriesandchampagne@outlook.com. Either of those methods, we'd be happy to read you. And we hope that you've enjoyed season 1.
Yeah, it's been a really good time talking about all these different albums and the history behind them. Like, thank you for guiding us through that, Aaron. You've done a wonderful job with your research, and us contributing quotes and little bits of information pales in comparison to all the prep you did for it. So,
well, but your guys' contributions make it a lot more dynamic, so I appreciate everything you've done, and no one could have explained the Super Audio CD better than Andrew.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be your kind of resident nerd here, and it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for sticking with us throughout the show, or if you're newly discovering us at the end of the season, then there's some good episodes for you to go back and check out, and we will be seeing you next time in season 2 with Toy.
That's right. Season 2 is going to be all about the 1960s. So we're going to cover that decade's influence on David Bowie.
Until then.
Only one thing left to do, yeah.
Don't forget to keep your hat warm.
Please come alive. Please come alive. Alive. Alive.
Really cool. I read yours because I dropped my pen.
Oh!